This is my dream Alaska cruise itinerary. We've been cruising Alaska every summer for a long time now, and every summer I come home thinking about what I'll do differently next time. Swap a port, change the cruise line, try a different excursion, or simply cut something out that wasn't worth it. But I finally feel like I've dialed in an itinerary that I wouldn't change for quite a while. And I gave myself one simple rule: build an itinerary that includes the best Alaska has to offer from a cruise ship in under 10 days. And I didn't give myself a budget constraint doing this, but that doesn't mean every choice had to be the most expensive or over the top. If a cheaper excursion or simpler option created a better overall experience, that's the one I picked. I also wanted this to feel realistic, not like some ultra luxury Alaska trip that costs more than most people's cars, so there's a balance of expensive and budget-friendly options. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through every piece of it. Oh, and if we haven't met yet, I'm Evan from Family at Sea. If this is your first time watching my channel, I'm glad you're here. And if you've been here a while, you already know how much I appreciate you. If you're ready, I am. Let's go. When it comes to planning the dream Alaska cruise, it starts with the itinerary. Because in Alaska, the route you sail, the glaciers you view, and the ports you visit shape the entire experience more than the ship itself. Now, the ship still matters, obviously, but I care a lot more about how much of Alaska I'm actually seeing and experiencing than whether the ship has another specialty restaurant or a go-kart track on the top deck. And for me, that meant building this around a one-way cruise from Anchorage to Vancouver. Because the more time we've spent in Alaska, the more I've realized that seeing Alaska from land gives you a completely different perspective of the state than you'll ever get from a cruise ship. So I'd start this trip with a few days around Anchorage before ever stepping onto the ship. A one-way sailing also lets you see more Alaska from the ship itself. You get more coastline, more scenery, and more glacier viewing instead of spending time retracing your route back to where you started. And finishing in Vancouver also means you'll be passing through the Inside Passage with smoother seas and more scenic views, and it also solves one of my biggest frustrations with Seattle round-trip cruises. You see, cruises that start and end in the United States have to stop in at least one foreign country if the ship isn't built and crewed by a majority of Americans because of an old maritime law, which usually means a short evening stop in Victoria from 8 p.m. to midnight that feels more like a technical requirement than an actual port visit. And for the cruise line itself, I kept coming back to Holland America. Now, to be fair, I'm not considering luxury or expedition lines here because that becomes a completely different kind of Alaska trip at a completely different price point. I wanted this to stay in the mainstream cruise world, and the more Alaska cruises we've done, the more Holland America just keeps checking the boxes I care about the most. They have Glacier Bay access, some of the best dock locations in Alaska, huge observation lounges for scenic cruising, and covered pools so you can still go for a swim even if it's cold and rainy outside. And overall, the atmosphere on board just fits Alaska really well. It feels calmer, more focused on the scenery, and more aligned with the actual destination instead of trying to compete with it. For a balcony cabin, which you definitely want to consider for a bucket list Alaska cruise, you can expect to pay around $5,000 to $6,000 for the cruise itself. But if you want to do things on a budget, you can typically get an interior or ocean view cabin for less than half that price. And that's a huge part of why I chose a Holland America for this itinerary. Because with Alaska especially, it's not just about finding the cheapest cruise, it's about understanding what you're actually getting for the money. A lower fare might look good at first, but if you end up with the wrong itinerary, the wrong cabin, or a ship that doesn't fit the kind of experience you want, it can completely change the trip. And that's exactly why we book through Cruises It. Instead of guessing, you're working with people who actually understand the ships, the pricing patterns, and how different cabins can completely change your experience. They've saved us thousands over the years, helped us land better cabins, and kept us from making choices we would have regretted later. Which is more than I can say for Frank, who once told me, "Evan, travel agents are pointless now. Everything's online." Frank, you spent 6 months planning your bucket list Alaska cruise, and you still managed to book the one Alaska itinerary that spends more time selling effie jewelry than showing you glaciers. How'd that work out for you? With their low price guarantee and people who actually care, Cruises It makes booking simpler, cheaper, and a whole lot less stressful. So click the link in the description below or call the number on the screen and tell them Evan from Family at Sea sent you. You'll be glad you did. Our Dream Alaska itinerary begins with 2 days in Anchorage before we ever even step foot on the ship. On the first day, I'd kick things off with a flight scene tour around Denali. And if the weather cooperates, I think this has a chance to be one of the most unforgettable parts of the entire trip. Denali is the tallest mountain in North America, and despite how big it is, during the summer there's only a 30 to 40% chance of actually seeing the mountain clearly because it spends so much time hidden behind the clouds. So when you do get a clear day, it feels like you won the lottery. And seeing it from the air completely changes your understanding of just how massive Alaska actually is. Because the glaciers and mountains feel endless, and for the first time, you really understand how small you are compared to the landscape around you. Once we make it back to town, I'd likely take it a bit easier the rest of the day, exploring the city of Anchorage and finding a spot with some good Alaska king crab for dinner. What I definitely wouldn't do is overcomplicate this part of the trip with a packed schedule because Alaska is one of those places where just being there already feels like an experience. Then on the second day, I'd focus more on getting out into nature itself instead of trying to cram in another huge excursion. So I'd head to Turnagain Arm for hiking, exploring, and just getting out in the landscape a bit more. Because after seeing Alaska from the air the day before, I think there's something really cool about slowing down and experiencing it from the ground level too. You've got trails running through the forests, waterfalls coming down the mountainsides, glaciers in the distance, and stretches where the mountains feel like they're closing in around you from every direction. And on the morning of day 3, I'd have a leisurely breakfast at the hotel or somewhere nearby and then hop on the Alaska Railroad Glacier Discovery Train, which leaves each day at 9:45 a.m. and gets you to Whittier at 12:05 p.m., which gives you plenty of time to board the ship as it's right across the parking lot from the train station. The train is the perfect transition into the cruise because the ride itself already feels like part of the vacation as you roll through the mountains, forests, rivers, and glacier views from a comfortable train car instead of spending hours staring out the window of a shuttle bus. And even though it sounds a little intimidating trying to coordinate train schedules with a cruise departure, these transfers are incredibly common and very reliable because a huge percentage of the ship is making that same exact journey in Whittier for embarkation day. One of the things I love about Holland America's one-way Alaska itineraries is that they visit both Hubbard Glacier and Glacier Bay. And I think a lot of first-time Alaska cruisers assume glacier days are basically interchangeable, but these two experiences actually feel very different from each other. Hubbard Glacier feels massive in a way that's honestly hard to explain until you see it in person. It's the largest tidewater glacier in North America. And when the ship starts getting close to it, you realize pretty quickly that the pictures and videos you've seen really don't convey the sheer scale of things. The glacier face stretches for miles. The ice has this deep blue color to it, and every once in a while you'll hear this loud cracking sound before huge chunks of ice calve and fall into the water. And on some sailings, you can even book smaller excursion boats that get you closer to the glacier itself than the cruise ship can. And then there's Glacier Bay, which feels completely different and is totally immersive. Instead of sailing up a one giant glacier like at Hubbard Glacier, in Glacier Bay you spend an entire day inside a national park that just happens to be surrounded by some of the most gorgeous water you'll ever see. And you spend hours slowly sailing through the bay while park rangers on board point out wildlife, glaciers, waterfalls, and different parts of the landscape along the way. And part of what makes Glacier Bay feel so special is that access is extremely limited. Of the major cruise lines that go to Alaska, only Holland America, Princess, and Norwegian have permits that allow them to sail there, which is a huge reason so many experienced Alaska cruisers specifically look for itineraries that include it. And the atmosphere on board also changes completely on Glacier Bay Day. People aren't running around trying to get to trivia or water slides, and most of the ship is outside or sitting quietly in observation lounges or standing along the railings just watching Alaska go by. And having both Hubbard Glacier and Glacier Bay on the same itinerary is a huge part of what makes this route feel so complete to me. Hubbard Glacier gives you that dramatic wow moment when you finally see how massive Alaska glaciers really are, and Glacier Bay gives you an entire day where the scenery never really stops. Next on the itinerary is Skagway, and while most people crowd onto the famous trains you find there, my dream itinerary has us renting a car instead and driving up the South Klondike Highway into the Yukon instead. Because the drive gives you something the train can't: freedom. You can pull over whenever the scenery looks incredible, stop at waterfalls and mountain overlooks, spend extra time somewhere if you want to, and experience the landscape at your own pace instead of just watching it pass by through the window of a train car. And the scenery on this drive is unbelievable. You start climbing out of Skagway through these massive mountains and waterfalls, and eventually the landscape opens up in alpine lakes, huge valleys, snow-capped peaks, and stretches of wilderness that barely feel real. Places like Emerald Lake almost look fake in person because the water is such a surreal shade of green. And then a little farther down the road, you suddenly run into places like the Carcass Desert sitting right in the middle of the mountains. Another really cool stop along the drive is the Twitchy Sled Dog Camp, where you can ride behind an actual sled dog team through the Yukon on custom summer sleds, even when there's no snow. What I love so much about this day is that it doesn't really feel like a cruise excursion. It feels like you disappeared into Alaska and the Yukon for the day and just kept finding incredible scenery around every corner. Then once we get to Juneau, this is where I'd plan the biggest excursion day of the entire trip. Because if there's one place in Alaska where I'm willing to spend serious money on excursions, it's Juneau. I'd book one of the helicopter tours that flies you out over the Juneau ice field, lands directly on a glacier, and combines glacier hiking with dog sledding. Because there really aren't many places in the world where you can fly over massive ice fields in a helicopter, stand on top of a glacier, and ride behind an actual sled dog team surrounded by snow in the middle of summer, all within a few hours. And once the helicopter dropped us back in Juneau, I'd head out on a whale watching tour next because Juneau has some of the best humpback whale encounters you'll see anywhere in the world. The waters around Juneau are protected feeding grounds, which means sightings are extremely common during the summer. And when one suddenly surfaces beside the boat and you hear that massive breath echo across the water, it's one of those moments that reminds you how enormous and untamed Alaska really is. Then, to finish the day, I'd head back into downtown Juneau and I'd make a stop by the iconic Red Dog Saloon for, well, a duck fart. Which, despite the name, is actually a layered Alaska shot made with Kahlua, Bailey's, and Crown Royal that somehow tastes way better than the name would make you think. For our final port day, I'd want one last experience that really leans into how wild and remote Alaska can feel. So we'll spend that morning out in the Misty Fjords National Monument on a float plane tour, flying through these narrow fjords surrounded by massive cliffs and waterfalls pouring down the mountainsides everywhere you look, with stretches of wilderness so untouched it almost feels like nobody was ever supposed to find them in the first place. And once we got back into Ketchikan, we'll slow down the pace a little and spend the rest of the day exploring downtown because Ketchikan feels completely different from the other Alaska ports. You've got places like Creek Street built right out over the water, colorful buildings stacked into the hillsides, and native Alaskan totem poles throughout the town that give the whole place a lot more personality and history than people expect before they get there. But here's the bad news. An Alaska trip like this can get really expensive quickly. And I know there are a lot of people watching this right now thinking, yeah, then this all sounds incredible, but I don't have unlimited money to throw out float planes and glacier helicopters. And honestly, I get it. But the reality is, you don't need to do every single thing in this video to have an unforgettable Alaska cruise. Most people would probably enjoy the trip more by choosing one or two truly unforgettable experiences instead of trying to spend thousands of dollars doing everything. The good news is, I made a video all about the Alaska cruise mistakes and money traps that just aren't worth it, so you can save that money for the experiences you'll actually remember years later. So don't stop here, watch that one next so you know exactly where to save money on your Alaska cruise and where it's actually worth spending a little more for the experience. I'll see you over there. If you're ready, I am. Let's go.